you can make.
Netflix and Disney taking steps into AI video creation.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Good Hang.
I'll give you a note. You made a great film that you are ruining with this self-indulgent bull.
Please welcome to the stage Bloomberg's Lucas Shaw.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the opening night of Bloomberg Screentime. Though they just said it, my name is Lucas Shaw. I lead a team of very talented journalists covering the business of pop culture at Bloomberg. I'm also the author of the weekly newsletter Screentime, which is how the name got its event, or how the event got its name, excuse me. That'll be my first and only stumble of the night, I promise. This is our third time doing the event. Every year I get asked the same question, what is the theme of the year? And I always feel like an idiot, because I don't really have an answer for the question. We do the same thing pretty much every year. We try to invite the most interesting executives and filmmakers and creatives and entrepreneurs to talk about the biggest moments in culture of the year. Now, that being said, there are some pretty obvious topics that we have to cover this year, some of which I think are different than what we've done in the past. 2025 has been a pretty brutal year for my hometown of LA. Started in January with the fires, continued with immigration raids, with mass layoffs in Hollywood. So we invited the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, to come and talk about the state of the city and what the government can do to help some of our big local industries. I also feel like we have to talk about the two new media czars we have in this country right now, President Trump and FCC Chair Brendan Carr. Trump has sued a lot of the biggest media companies in the world, including some of the executives that we've had on stage. And Carr tried to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. Brendan Carr declined our invite to come and be interviewed here. But I think we can get him. He does like press. He just tends to like press of a particular persuasion. Jimmy, fortunately, will be here. He's going to talk about probably one of the most surreal stretches in his career. We'll, of course, hit all the normal Screentime fare, mergers, blockbuster movies, hit concert tours, all that stuff. We're going to have the co-CEO of Netflix, Greg Peters, here to talk about what they have in store for us. That will complete the Netflix circle. We had Ted Sarandos year one. We had Bella Bajaria year two. Greg this year will probably have to take next year off with Netflix. And we're going to kick things off tonight with a former coworker of Greg's, actually, someone I've known a long time. He was at Netflix. Then he had a big job at YouTube. He is now the CEO of Warner Music Group. His name is Robert Kyncl. But before we get to Robert, we've got to do some of the logistics for those of you who have not been here before, and because a couple things might be a little different. I want to thank our presenting sponsors, Amazon Web Services and Corient. And I also want to thank our supporting sponsors, Nielsen, Turkish Airlines, and Weil, Gottschall, and Manges. Now, again, for those of you who haven't been here before, please start by taking out your phone. If for those of you who don't have it already, that gentleman, you've got it. Put it on silent and scan this QR code right here, please. You can use it to get the Wi-Fi information, download the event app, follow the agenda, figure out people to meet. We are also going to use this, or the website you go to, for submitting questions, that some of which we can pull into the conversation, and for doing polls. So that I do not forget to do polls, and so that you all know how to do polls, we're going to do one to start things off. how do you discover most of your new music? I'll tell you that my answer for this is probably the platform algorithms, the friends, and then one thing that's not on here is podcasts and television shows. I like to look at playlists for TV shows when they have good music. So while you're figuring this out, a few other announcements. If you do not already subscribe to Bloomberg News, shame on you. But you do get a free 3-month subscription for being here, and then you got to re-up at the end of that. If you are enjoying yourself, you want to share things while you're here, you can follow along at the hashtag Bloomberg Screentime. You can tag us at Bloomberg Live. You can tag me at Lucas_Shaw. This is more of advice for tomorrow, but we have a couple of new networking spaces here. There's a Corient lounge and a Turkish Airlines lounge. One of them's in the space across the hall. One of them's right out there. Use them as you see fit. Let's take a look at the results. Okay, friends and streaming platform algorithms. I'm going to ask Robert what he has in mind, but please join me in giving a warm welcome to Robert Kyncl. How you feeling?
Very good.
You guys have to be nice to Robert because he flew in for this and is flying out tonight for a board meeting. So if he's a little groggy, that's the only reason, but I don't expect that to be a problem.
And I think I might have broken my collarbone too, mountain biking. But, I would not cancel anything.
Okay, I appreciate it.
But I can do this.
So you were brought into Warner almost 3 years ago. You're the only head of a major music company who's not a lifelong music person. You're a little bit of an outsider, and I assume that's one of the reasons that Len Blavatnik, the owner, and the board wanted you, because they felt like music was going through a transitional moment. So I want to start with, having been in the job 3 years, seen where music's at, what do you think is the kind of the biggest way the music business is going to change in the next few years, and what are you doing at Warner to make sure that you benefit from that?
So, by the way, my predecessor was also
an outsider. Yeah, I know.
Outsider, so I'm not unique. So let's be a little bit modest about it. I think, look, we're going through a lot of change in the industry. Not ourselves, everybody is. The really big change for music is that after many years of growth only through subscriber growth, that now we're also going through pricing increases. Right, so it's not only just volume in terms of subscribers, but also price, which has not been the case in the previous 15 years. I said this first day on the job. You now see it happening all around, and you'll see more of that. So that's exciting. And I think, too, for us, I'm really bullish on AI overall to drive the industry further. And if you think about every new technology has generally benefited copyright holders in major ways. Sometimes there are waves of how you get to it.
Is that really, do you think people in the music business would say that the internet benefited copyright holders?
Well, if you look at it over the long term, it has, right? If you look at the multiples that people pay to acquire copyrights, they are the highest that they've ever been. So the answer is yes. Copyright is more valuable than ever, at least for music.
Right.
So it has benefited us. We have 700, at the end of 2024, we had 750 million paying subscribers around the world. That number continues to grow. Goldman's predicting that by 2030 it's going to be well over 1 billion. If you combine that with, driving ARPU up, it's a healthy industry. But I think the X factor.
ARPU, average revenue per user.
Average revenue per user, yes. This is a smart audience.
I'm just,
And see, he's doubting you. He's doubting you.
Look, we got some analysts in the front row who I know what ARPU means. I don't know that everybody in the audience knows what ARPU means.
If you think about AI, I think of it the same way user-generated content 15, 17 years ago came in. It was a source of major, major friction between the open platforms like YouTube, where I used to work, and the copyright holders. And at that time, we just took what was a major friction and lawsuits, et cetera, and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I think, that was underpinned, obviously, by something called Content ID, which tracked the copyright and helped apportion the money. But I think of AI as that on steroids, and we just need to figure it out correctly so that, we all participate the right way.
Okay, I was going to get to AI later, but since you brought it up, let's just go right in. So you say it's going to be a good thing. At the same time, all the record labels are suing Udio and Suno, which are sort of the two big audio AI companies. So why sue them? And how do you think that lawsuit ends?
So there's a very important sentence that we have, which is we reserve our options and we reserve our rights every time something new is happening. Our strategy around this is 3 L's: license, legislate, and litigate. In that order, preferably. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes they get mixed up, but those 3 are important. We always prefer to license if we can set up the right outcomes. Then, of course, licensing is amazing, and you do that, and we're always open for business. Legislate is important because if you don't have the right construct legislatively, then it's really hard to do licensing agreements in general. And litigate is when everything else fails. So, but sometimes it's upside down in terms of the order.
Yeah. So what, in terms of licensing, what does a good AI licensing deal look like? What is most important to a company like yours?
The best way to think about it is you have to think about a couple things. One, which is you have to think about the input, and then you think about the outputs. On the input side, it's for training. We maintain that if you want to train on our content, you have to license it, which is the source of our lawsuits, obviously, that you have to license it.
And it seems like most of the AI companies, whether it's Suno, Udio, or OpenAI, do not feel that way.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it works out. That is the point. But we believe that it is absolutely, and we've maintained that is the right way forward. So that's on the input side. On the output side, there's 2 different types. One, when the music is sort of generic, so it's not recognizable by any artist. There's no name, image, likeness, and voice implicate in any way, so it's more like generic music. But it's based on training on our content. So for us, that's a new revenue stream. Then there's the type of music that implicates name, image, likeness, and voice, and that is very much similar to how UGC worked. And I think there are constructs for it. Obviously, need to change a little bit, but we can copy a lot of that.
And so you think that AI music, rather than replace, you think that AI will expand the pie rather than replacing some of what you already have? Because if people are choosing to listen to AI music, doesn't that mean they're not listening to Ed Sheeran, Bruno Mars, Cardi B?
So I'll tell you how we're putting our money where our mouth is. We believe that in the world of AI, branded, big, recognizable music will become more valuable. There'll be a lot more music, and there'll be a lot more unrecognizable music, which will increase the noise and frustration and all of that. But we believe that music from big stars, recognizable music, sort of branded IP and music from stars, will actually be more valuable. We believe it so much that us and our partners at Bain Capital have put together $1.2 billion JV to buy copyrights just like that. So it's not just us believing it. We have really smart people on Wall Street who believe.
Have you guys announced a deal yet?
No, not yet. But stay tuned.
When are you going to get that Chili Peppers deal done?
Stay tuned, Lucas.
One last AI one, and then we can move on. What % of your acts right now do you think are already using some kind of AI tool?
I wouldn't know the percentage. It's hard to track.
Okay, let's go quartiles. You think more than half?
I really couldn't answer. I don't know. I'll be making it up.
You talked about pricing. How much do you think Spotify should cost?
Alex, listen. I don't want to tell others how much they should charge for their products. What I can tell them is how much we charge for our product to them, and they can decide what to do. I think the big change that I have adopted is that instead of thinking about everything retroactively, which is we hope that they will increase price and therefore something good will happen for us, I think about it more prospectively, which is, look, this is what our product costs into the future, and you decide how you price your product on a retail basis, right? We can determine retail prices anyway.
Sure.
So
how do you, maybe you feel like you're answering, but one of the things I've never understood on pricing being one of the big levers for you is you have a lot of the opportunities you have for growth right now, I feel like are not ones that the labels really control, because you're sort of relying on the platforms, your partners, to do things?
Yeah, I don't think you understood my question. I mean, the answer.
Okay.
What answer is we control our retail.
No, that I understood. You're right, but if you go to, to your point, you can't go to Alex, who's the new co-CEO of Spotify, and say our retail price is $13 a month.
No, but there is a price. It's not that number, but there is a retail price, which is a number.
Yeah. And you feel like you have enough leverage to consistently push it up?
Look, all of us in the media industry, on all sides, is everybody always wants to take a little bit more from the other one. It's always the same.
Sure.
And so everybody is always trying to drive up scale in order to have more leverage, whether it's more users or more content, et cetera. So we have to do our job to grow our share of music, which is, we have actually increased our market share by 1 percentage point over the last 12 months, which is incredible, while we were, dominating in the charts, with amazing talent like Alex Warren and Samber and Raven Lenae, et cetera, lots of homegrown talent being number 1 and number 2 globally on Spotify. So tremendous amount of success. So we have to do that. At the same time, we have to increase the value of music through our wholesale relationship with our partners and become more efficient at the same time so that we can reinvest into music and drive the flywheel. So we've been delivering on that, and it's been an incredible year in terms of, Warner Records and Atlantic are both absolutely white hot, on fire. It has not happened in 25 years. It was either one or the other. We actually have both engines firing on all cylinders.
Why? Because you guys have broken a lot of new acts. Do you feel like you're getting the proper recognition on Wall Street, though? Because you guys still trade at a much lower multiple than Universal.
Sure. We are working on the recognition, as you can imagine. Look, the proof is, what I can do is point to our chart share on Spotify 200, where we're the number 2 record label in the world in that.
Yeah.
Despite our smaller size in general. Growing our market share, obviously, is important. So all of it in due course.
Yeah.
We've accomplished all of that while going through incredibly invasive and difficult changes in the company, which just shows you that you can do really, really hard things while grow and become more successful at the same time, which most people don't generally believe.
Right.
And I'm really proud of our employees to actually have delivered on that during our year, and it's very exciting to do that.
I want to get to the word invasive is provocative, but are there opportunities for your company when you say increasing the value of music in areas that are sort of tangential to music, whether you've talked about superfan, social, gaming, film and TV. Do you see any real big growth opportunities there, or are you more focused on the core?
We're very much focused on the core. We're looking at all of these adjacencies that you're talking about, but precisely for the reason that you said, which is we have to make sure that we deliver stability, stable growth, stable earnings growth. We're focused a lot on the core, while at the same time starting to build sort of adjacent areas that can help expand the business.
Right. So when are you going to announce your Slate deal with Netflix?
I'm not sure whether you heard that, but so obviously I cannot confirm anything. But if you step back and think about this, it makes a lot. Our company has tremendous catalog: Prince, Madonna, Fleetwood Mac. It just goes on and on and on. The stories that we have are incredible, and they haven't really been told. We're like Marvel for music. That's where we are, and it will be unlocked, and so it makes a lot of sense for us to partner with a company that can bring it to life all around the world, and it's exciting both for acts who are no longer with us, but we make their estates happy and satisfied, but also for acts who are with us, who then can actually help bring young audiences to the streaming platforms.
Yeah.
So, if you talk about it in principle.
Do you have a dream music documentary that you want to see?
Well, there's no way I can answer that question.
Like choosing between your children?
Exactly.
Okay, do you have a favorite recent one that you've seen?
Favorite recent one? I haven't watched one lately.
I really I thought the Led Zeppelin one was great.
Oh, yeah, that actually, yes.
And I think that is a Warner family artist.
That is right. That is right.
Your company is controlled by one of the wealthiest people in the world, Len Novotny, generally press averse. I'm just curious because he doesn't do a lot of talking. He comes to your parties, but doesn't really talk about Warner that much. What is he like as a boss?
This is like 360 review without the person, which makes it very easy. No, so one, he's one of the most successful investors in the world. The reason I say that is because he has built huge amounts of value across multiple different industries. Most people generally do it in one industry and that blows up really big. Len has done it across 4 or 5 different industries. So it just tells you there is an incredible, incredible investor, and knows how to spot patterns and act accordingly. He also invests for the long term, right? Which is obviously his intention with Warner. So we're the largest holding. He's incredibly proud of the asset and wants to make sure that we succeed both economically and culturally, and have a really large impact on the world. He's very involved in the business. We talk frequently. He has a lot of opinions and a lot of advice. And I have to admit that he's more right than wrong, which, I wish I could win the arguments more. Yeah. But he's very good. So I do listen quite a lot.
And how do you compare? Because his son is also getting super involved. So how do you compare father and son?
That's the benefit. If you grow up in a family like that, you learn a lot from young age, and so Val has a lot of benefit of learning from his dad and basically being the apprentice from the cradle. Yeah.
I have to ask you about another famous son, because you talked about how well Atlantic is doing. You recently, or not in the last year or so, promoted Elliot Grange to run Atlantic. He's the son of your biggest competitor.
Who's that?
I think his name is, I can put it no more delicate way than, are you insane?
Yes. No. Look, doing the true and tried things is boring. Everybody does those. If you're in an industry that's changing, if you're in a world with lots of crosswinds, you have to do daring things. We do it with our reorganizations. We do it with choices that we make, et cetera. So that's one of the things that I wanted in the company, is that it's not afraid to be first, it's not afraid to be daring, it's not afraid to break the mold. Elliot's appointment is one of those things. We bought 51% of his company a couple of years ago. So he kind of onboarded into the company because I was looking for, what is the young talent that is very digitally native, understands music really well, is extremely passionate, but can learn how to operate inside a large company. We were able to kick the tires for a year, right, and work in there, and then appoint him. Since then, he's done lots of big changes at Atlantic, and as he was doing, just like with Warner overall, he's grown market share, he's broken in the charts, done incredible campaigns for lots of artists. The Marias are a really great example of that. So I've been incredibly happy and proud of what Elliot has accomplished. And I wish for him what every father wishes for his son, which is that he's more successful than his father.
You talked about, one of the things that was important that you referred to him with was digitally native. I feel like when you took the job, it was at the point where if you talked to anyone in the music business, they said that TikTok was basically where everything broke. Where do you see TikTok's power in the music business now? And is there anything that has sort of come up to challenge it as the most kind of prominent place for discovery?
So, by the way, I never really believed that, whenever people are saying it, even years back, because a little bit more of the randomness of the algorithm, which serves TikTok really well. but it's good for spikes, but maybe not for stability. So if you're a company like ours, you're looking for building a career for somebody, not a one-off hit. And that is really hard to achieve on a algorithm that's much more random. So I never actually believed that as a discovery platform. Honestly.
Well, does that mean you didn't believe it as a discovery, or more as that you couldn't build lasting success?
Lasting success.
Yeah.
Lasting success. But but discovery kind of follows that, right? Because if you just have like a one-off random hit, like what you look for is people who can connect on a regular basis with their audiences, not just one-off.
Sure.
I'm not saying that it's not there, but it's just, in general, it's much harder to do it that way. There are a lot of, I'll tell you a quick anecdote, which is, when I meet with different A&R execs, young folks, some of their methods are very true and tried, which is go to live shows, watch the audience rather than the act, and see how the audience is reacting to the artist. And if there's a connection, said there is something to it. Now we can work on the art and develop them as an artist, because the connection is incredibly important. And Cardi B was an example of that, right? And if you want to build a superstar, that audience has to be, for women, has to be teen girls. That's where it all begins. And if it's males, it's teen girls. It's like the key to success. So, it's a very analog way of doing it, but it's proven to work really well in today's world.
Are we happy with the new Cardi B record?
Very. Yes, very. It's been great.
When it comes to when you,
by the way, again, another great Atlantic campaign around the record.
She was everywhere on social.
She was everywhere on social.
When your executives find an artist, or when you're meeting with an artist, like there are more different companies competing to sign artists than ever, really. Whether it's distribution companies, major labels, independents. I think there's a perception among some that there's a lot of the roles that a label once fulfilled, the artists can do themselves. They can do with their management. So what do you say to an artist as for why they need a label? And does the extent of that competition make the economics, even when you do sign them, more challenging?
Yeah. So the world is changing a lot. In the world where anyone can publish, so fully democratized distribution. I like to say, in a world where everyone can publish, no one can be heard, because the noise level is so high and it's so hard to break through the clutter. And suddenly you need an army and an infrastructure to actually do that on a global basis, if you want to do it on a sustained basis. So that's one. I am a very big believer in large-scale company, especially in the music business. That may be counter to what everyone else believes, but I'm more convinced of that than I was 3 years ago. If you want to negotiate with large platforms, it's very hard if you do it on your own or as part of a small company. If you want to negotiate the future of AI and how things are handled, it is very hard to be a David versus Goliath. You need a large company behind you. If you want to break through the clutter, have a marketing team all around the world, unleashing you on the world, you need a large company. We are entering the stage where being part of a company like ours is more advantageous than not. I understand that the narrative in the marketplace may be different. I'm looking at it from the inside. I live it every day, and I'm more convinced of this than ever.
I have one thing on the scale front. So you worked at YouTube, you've negotiated with Spotify. Why do you think, when you look at the tech companies, why have YouTube and Spotify raced so far ahead of Apple and Amazon in music?
You want me to talk about our partners and compare them? I decline to comment. Look, innovation, right? Again, I can speak more for YouTube than for Spotify. I did not work at Spotify. I worked at YouTube. There's a lot of people, a lot of different teams who are focused on building products, innovating, and constantly pushing themselves. It's not stopping. And I know anecdotally, I see that Spotify as well, but not from the inside. So I think if you look at it from product standpoint, there's just been more focus on innovation around it than in the other companies. That's it. It just comes down to that.
One last question to sort of tie us off where we started. What do you think will look most different about a record label 5 years from now?
I think we will, and I don't mean just us, but in general, there will be full-service companies. Today, if you go around...
So what is an example of something that you don't offer now that you think you would?
Today, we don't offer management. We don't offer live promotion. There's a lot of services like that we're not in the business of here in the United States.
Right. Very common in Asia and other markets.
Yeah, including our company. Right? So we provide those services. We are the hub for the artist of their universe, and we service them in every regard. And whether it's in certain countries in Europe, in many countries in Asia, US, UK are kind of the exceptions to that. And I think that's going to change because you're seeing that with obviously lots of smaller companies happening. There's no reason it wouldn't be happening with the larger companies. And it's about building the brand for the artist and developing the best possible way to then unleash the brand on the world and monetize the brand. And it's better, in my opinion, if it's all unified rather than if it's all fragmented. Again, we're in a world where scale of everything is increasing, complexity of everything is increasing, and increasingly you need larger business on your side handling things like this for you. That's my prediction.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Here
we go. Please welcome to the stage Karen Bass, Mayor of the City of Los Angeles, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Sarah McGregor.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure, my pleasure.
So I want to get today's news, of course, about the fires, but first let's take a step back. This past year has been pretty tough on LA. There's obviously been the fires, the immigration raids, some budget, a bit of a budget crunch, and of course, Hollywood slowdown has really only added to that. And actually, the entertainment industry has hit a rough patch for a few years now, I think much longer than everyone's expected. So I'm wondering if you're seeing any real signs that things are turning around for the entertainment business.
Well, let me just say there was good news this year. I mean, finally getting tax credits of some value, over $700 million. I think that's very good news. And for me, that's special because when I was in the legislature, I was involved in getting the first tax credits in. And what my hope was that it was going to grow over time, but it didn't grow fast enough. So after advocating for the tax credits, I did want to say, what could we do in the city of Los Angeles to make filming easier? And so I believe that the best way to do policy is to go to the people who are directly involved. And so I went to the industry. I asked them, what do we need to do better here? And there were several things. One, of course, is the red tape in terms of getting on location, the permitting, lowering the costs, decreasing the number of city staff that are required. And then the industry wanted 1 or 2 individuals that could essentially provide a concierge service. And so we put all that in place. I did an executive directive calling for that because I felt like advocating for the tax credits wasn't enough. I wanted to know what we could do here.
Do you have anything else in the pipeline? Are you working at anything else in the city or along with the state to try and lower the costs?
Well, I think once you do a big piece of legislation like the tax credits, then you have unintended consequences. You have things that happened at the last minute. And so I know that there's going to be, it's called cleanup legislation. And I know that there's going to be some things that need to happen because right away, once the tax credits were signed, I certainly heard from the industry, well, what about this and what about that? And why wasn't that included? And so I'm sure that there will be a look to see what improvements could be made on a legislative level.
President Trump's talked about 100% tariff on foreign-made films.
Today, yesterday, whatever. Well, who knows what that means? I mean, to me, the first thing I wonder is that the last thing in the world we need to do is tax U.S. companies who film overseas. Why on earth would we do that? We get the tax credits and then we tax them. But I think, with the president, we really never know what he means. And we also don't know, that's what he says, 1 hour. in the next hour, all the things he said about LA that have been, it's one thing to kind of exaggerate or embellish, but it's a whole other thing to just invent stuff that just is not happening at all. I mean, what's called a lie.
Jimmy Kimmel will be on stage later tonight.
See, that's what happens when people get activated. People got activated and demanded that Jimmy Kimmel come back on the air. And I think that that was a great victory. So sometimes, you know, when you're struggling and you're going through all these changes because of the madness in D.C., it's important to realize when you do win, when you have a victory. And I think Jimmy Kimmel being back on the air was a victory for all of us.
Mm-hmm. I think, as you said, the suspension of his show really struck a nerve, you know, both for freedom of speech, but also around, you know, another local production that potentially was at risk. When something like that happens, how involved do you get? Do you pick up the phone? What do you do when you see something like that happen?
Sure, definitely pick up the phone to see what can I do to be helpful. Joining in the advocacy. Sometimes I am not necessarily in public. Sometimes it's behind the scenes. Sometimes that's the best way to advocate. But anything that I can do, encouraging other people's advocacy. But yes, I get involved. That's the bottom line. Mm-hmm.
When you look at the numbers, it's not just the actors or the studios that are suffering. It's the creative economy, the set designers, the vendors. How is the city helping rebuild that pipeline of work? What specifically is in motion?
Well, actually, I can say what I've done. I mean, in the city, to me, the below-the-line crafts is actually how I started many, many years ago before I ever thought about running for office, was trying to advocate for classes in community colleges. So in West LA College now, there's a program where you can learn the below-the-line crafts, and they have different modules. And one success is that a lot of times the young people don't finish the program, and it's successful because a journeyman will take them on a set, and they launch into the career as opposed to going through all of the modules. So I think it's important, but it's also important to just promote the industry because a lot of people don't know about the below-the-line jobs. But also my family is personally involved in the ancillary part, and then letting people understand that it's not all about the sets. It's people who have a lot of businesses. My brother, for example, has a custom kitchen business, and he's survived Home Depots by designing kitchens on TV sets. And so it's important for people to know that the industry just touches a wide breadth of our city. And then also advocating for filming, because a lot of times neighborhoods get upset about filming. I actually live in a neighborhood, well, I did, as mayor, I live in the mayor's house, but where we liked filming, and we would compete on our block to have filming done. Mm-hmm. And so right across the street from my house, they filmed Lincoln Lawyer.
I was speaking with someone who was actually on a set. I was speaking to them by phone earlier this week, and they looked around and they said there's 25 people on this set right now, but with the way AI is going, I expect this time next year there'd be 5 of these people here. So I'm just, in light of that and how fast AI is moving, is there anything specific that the city's doing to help workers adapt and to make sure that this innovation doesn't come at the cost of jobs?
No, there's not a specific program. I mean, I'm honest. If we're doing something, I'll tell you, and if we're not, I'll tell you that too. And we are doing anything specific around AI. We actually are looking at AI in terms of the city. We're looking at AI in terms of the rebuilding of the Palisades, but we are not looking at how do we transition people and make sure that they stay employed if AI enters in and takes their job. But I think everybody was scared at that character that they came, the woman that they showed, that was really frightening.
Well, switching topics to the fires, authorities today arrested a man who was accused of intentionally sparking the Palisades fire. The prosecutor said he lit the fire on January 1st, and it smoldered for about a week, and of course the winds whipped up the fire, and we were left, of course, with a lot of structures and people who died. What reaction have you received from people in the Palisades, businesses, residents to that arrest?
This is a day to me. Going through the whole fires, it's a grieving process. I mean, people, it's not just a loss of a house. It's a loss of memories. People lost their lives. It's a loss of community. Kids lost their school. I had a meeting with a group of teenagers. They were in high school, and it dawned on me, this was right after the fires, and it dawned on me that the same group of kids went through COVID, and their lives were totally disrupted. They didn't make their graduations, and they weren't going to make their graduation again. So with what happened today, to me, that just re-traumatizes people. And I'm sure that a lot of people in the Palisades were brought back in time. You know, there was the report a couple of weeks ago about the other fires. And I know that anytime something like that happens, people are re-traumatized. And I think it's important to be there for people and to do everything we can to get them back in their homes.
Rick Caruso, who you defeated in 2022 in the mayor's race and has been one of your most vocal critics around the fires, he released a statement today after the arrest saying it shows the disaster was preventable and, in his words, calling it a failure of government on an epic level, starting with Mayor Bass. He'll be with us on this stage tomorrow. How do you respond to that?
Well, the way he characterized me sounded like Trump, but I just was saddened by it, honestly, because I think that response was beneath him. And he was in my office a couple of weeks ago. We're working on something. We're working on a couple of things together. But I think that he is sad and bitter. And I think that it is really sad to exploit. You guys laughing about that? I feel like it's exploiting tragedy. It's exploiting grief. And this is when the city needs to stand together. Why would you do that? So he's better than that. And I was just disappointed and saddened.
You had mentioned he was in your office a couple weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. We're working on something together. You know what we're working on? We're working on, and it was actually something that he raised, something that I wanted to do, and he proposed a particular solution, and I'm really excited about it. That's ULA, ULA, United LA, the transfer tax. Well, I don't believe that if you lost your house, or frankly, if you were a survivor of the fire in Palisades, even if you didn't lose your house and you want to sell your house, you shouldn't have to pay a transfer tax. You shouldn't have to do that. And so we're looking at how we legally, because it was a ballot initiative, how legally we can do that. We're working together on the rebuilding the rec center, working together on AI. So it's like here I'm working on all of these issues. Now, I'm in politics. I mean, there's a lot of performative stuff that goes on. And we used to play this game in Congress where, we'd beat each other up and then we'd go out and have dinner. That's not this. This is anger and resentment that's of a deep level, not the performative politics we do.
So you're running again next year. Politically, it's a very different time in the city, even in America, I think, than the 2022 election.
Sure is.
A lot has changed. Your party was in power then. Then President Joe Biden endorsed you. Given how much has changed, how will you approach the next election and the campaign?
Well, I'm running again because I'm not finished. And I will tell you, though, that this will be my last election. I will not run after this for anything. And I think it's a problem when people run for one office, but they really want to do something else because then they're conflicted. But I ran because of the situation we have on our street of people being homeless. And I was worried that people were so angry about it that they were going to turn to punishing and criminalizing people. And I am not finished. This is a problem that has existed for 30 plus years, and it's a mess on every level. And you can't solve something as big as that in 3 years, which is how long I've been in. And I want to finish my job. But, we have so much to look forward to in our city. We have all of these events. Everybody talks about the Olympics, but in February, we have the All-Star basketball game. In May, we have the U.S. Open for golf for women. In June, we have the World Cup. 8 games are played here, but the World Cup lasts 40 days. In 2027, we have the Super Bowl. Then we get around to the Olympics and the Paralympics. And so we have so much to look forward to. And what we do in the city to build that unity and spirit is once a month, at the last Saturday of every month, we have this program called Shine LA, which I would invite all of you to participate in, where we bring people together to do different projects to beautify the city. Although the last Saturday I was involved, I was actually making meatballs. And I was making thousands of meatballs for homeless people. We were in a community project. So it's an opportunity for people to, build that city spirit and prepare to welcome the world. And my vision and hope is that when these games happen, that it's an opportunity for the entire city to take advantage of it. And it's an opportunity for small businesses. So we have summits where we work with small businesses so that they'll learn how to contract with the city or with FIFA or LA28 to take economic advantage. So I want it to be economically uplifting to our city, but also, in the midst of challenging times, we really do have a lot to look forward to.
You've built your career on coalition building. That was the reputation you brought to your election when you won. Now, as mayor, you've clashed with President Trump over wildfire aid, over the National Guard and Marine deployment in the city.
Yep.
And it's also a time where we're seeing someone like Governor Gavin Newsom, his popularity rise in the polls as he trolls Trump. So in this political climate, do you think like a bridge-building approach still works, or do you have to be confrontational?
Absolutely. No, you got to do both. You got to do both. You have to be confrontational. I have to fight for the city. I have to defend the city. I mean, we are a city of immigrants, and I can't sit around and tolerate, what he has done. But I knew what he was doing. It was an experiment, and he experimented with us, and now he's taken that experiment, around the city. And what he is doing is getting the American people to acclimate and adjust and accept military intervention in our cities. And I think that is something that should never be accepted. And it was important for me to stand up and do that. And then today I was working with the administration, okay? I mean, I was talking to the U.S. Attorney, Bill Asaley, and we're fighting on immigration, but we worked together today on the press conference. That's the kind of, collaboration. It's a tactical alliance as opposed to a strategic alliance. So I'm not in alliance ideologically, but I am in alliance tactically if it's something that we're working on. I've always done that. I've always worked across the aisle. And I think it's critically important to build coalitions. It's a matter of power. It's not, you don't build coalitions for kumbaya, or I don't. I build coalitions to get something done.
I'm interested. You were a congresswoman during Trump's first term, and now you're the mayor. You're the mayor of America's second largest city during his second term. So what's the difference between being a lawmaker under Trump 1.0 and mayor in 2.0?
I feel, that's kind of weird to say this, but I feel fortunate that I did have 4 years experience with him. So I felt I knew how to deal with him this time. Also, a number of the people that he's appointed, those are my former colleagues. I know some of the secretaries that we'd fight, Tulsi Gabbard and Kristi Noem and Sean Duffy, and, those are folks that I worked with. I used to see Kristi Noem and Tulsi Gabbard in the gym every morning.
What would happen if you reached... Do you reach out to them now, or what would they, what would happen if you tried to reach out to them now in the same collegial way?
I would, actually. I haven't had the occasion to, but, what I would do is, I know if we were in front of cameras, we'd be performing. But off the camera, it would be a different conversation, I think. Mm-hmm. But there's a number of folks that I, worked with. And so what the difference is that Trump, the first time, nobody took him seriously. And he had people in his administration that had guardrails and said, no, you can't do this. You can't send the military. If you remember, he said he wanted to do that then. But this time, he doesn't have guardrails. The other thing is that I think the right wing in our country realized after they got him in that they could profoundly change our country. And their first go at us was changing the judiciary. So that happened while I was there. And they systematically appointed judges that were in their 40s. So they'd be there for 40 years, extremely right wing. That changed the judiciary. That has fundamentally changed our three co-equal branches of government, because I don't think we have them right now. We have one branch of government. The judiciary's been compromised. The speaker and the head of the Senate went over to the White House and handed in their gavels. And so basically you have the country being run by one branch of government. That's a fundamental change. It's incumbent on us to make sure that that is a temporary change, because that's a type of change that leads to authoritarianism. And we do not want to see that in our country. I think it's really important that we not view the president as just crazy. Might be, but the people around him are very serious, with a very serious agenda, and they gave it to us in writing. We need to read it. Project 2025. Remember, he disavowed it during the campaign, and now he's embraced it. They've laid out, and I think that they started studying how they could bring about these structural changes during his first term. So it's very helpful to me that I went through that experience. So it allows me to, I think, to fight, but in a measured manner, and understanding that, you know, there's things and ways that I will work with them. Now, the irony for me is that I was doing really risky stuff politically during the fires. I was complimenting the administration repeatedly, because what the administration did is sent tremendous number of resources our way, which is why we were able to clear out all of the fire areas so quickly and begin the rebuilding process. And I actually was.
Do you regret that now? Do you think
no, I still do it. No. He unleashed a tremendous number of Army Corps of Engineers. I will continue to say that. I don't regret that. But I will also say what I just said in terms of the restructuring of our country, how serious and dangerous it is, and how, profoundly vicious he has been. I mean, he's said all kinds of things about me. He says all kinds of things about Gavin too, but some of the things he says are kind of comical. I guess he said I was in charge of the water in the Pacific Northwest. I was like, does he know he's talking about Oregon and Washington? I was like, and that's, I've got, this valve he keeps doing.
We're almost out of time, but if we could take 30 seconds. I just have a couple lightning round questions that we could just shift gears for a second. Last binge-worthy show you watched?
Oh, you know what? At night I like to watch just entertaining. Girlfriends, old sitcom. You like Girlfriends? And The Neighborhood. I like those. I binge watch those.
Okay.
I have to have light, light.
Who would play you in a Netflix drama about your first term?
Oh, a comedian. Kim Whitley, Yvette Nicole Brown, those are two comedians.
And just quickly, the last one, a neighborhood you show off to visitors to LA that surprises them.
Baldwin Hills, Baldwin Vista.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Bloomberg's Emily Chang.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. I just got out of the green room, and I can promise that the next hour is going to be totally not boring, so you have come to the right place. I'm Emily Chang. I am the host and executive producer of The Circuit and Posthuman on Bloomberg Originals. Bloomberg Originals, if you're not familiar with it, is our original content studio that complements our live global daily news coverage, where we are covering the biggest stories around the world every day. So in my case, you may have seen me wake surfing with Mark Zuckerberg or golfing with Steph Curry. Thank you. Somebody saw it. Or maybe just hanging out with robots. And I feel truly blessed to have the opportunity to do the work that we do. Our mission is simple: to show you business as you've never seen it, to take you beyond the headlines, where business meets culture and technology and entertainment and climate and everything in between. All of it is streaming and beautifully produced. And we've got formats of all kinds. We've got documentaries, long and short. We have video podcasts. We have talk shows. We have incredible voices. We have bold stories. And we just won our first Emmys, plural, 2 Emmys. We've got multiple nominations. And I can say that as a journalist who's been doing this job for a while now, I've worked in a few places, I don't see any newsroom out there that is making content that is as expansive and cinematic and impactful And it is where journalism, to me, meets a truly unique kind of storytelling. So it is my pleasure to show you some highlights from Bloomberg Originals. Thank you.
This is a story about how hard it can be to stay on top.
This is an incredible comeback story. This is iconic fun. This is amazing TV.
This is me, devouring smash burgers with a Duchess.
Oh, I just got the heat from that.
I'm Haslinda Amin, and this is Momentum.
My name is Nikolai Coster-Waldau, and this is an optimist's guide to the planet.
I'm Emily Chang, and this is Post-Human.
I'm Professor Hannah Fry.
This is where some of the biggest breakthroughs in the history of computer science have happened.
Are we on the circuit?
The circuit with Emily Chang.
You guys love these meet and greet things.
We do.
How are you?
We're starting to see different role models of success.
Our portfolio right now, as it stands, is 68% women or person of color, and that is unheard of in the VC world.
These investments we make today will have a direct impact on our future space economy.
I truly believe AI is the most transformational technology that I've seen in my career.
How do you personally grapple with the pace of it all?
It does feel like it's going very fast.
The way you stay ahead is by innovating relentlessly. It has to be true all the time. We better sort of really face up to the fact that this is a rate of diffusion that's faster than anything before, and it's worldwide.
Nations that don't have a capacity to deal with their past, they have a very difficult time to look into the future.
Any good reporter has a moment when you hear a little click, and that click is, this is a hell of a story.
People need a frontier, otherwise things start to feel very zero-sum.
All of a sudden, we can see and understand things at a scale that we just did not have access to before.
Everything is moving to streaming, everything is moving on demand. It's very clear that consumers want that.
We're optimistic and expect that our engagement growth in the second half of this year will be better than in the first half, given our strong second half slate.
Please welcome to the stage Greg Peters, co-CEO of Netflix, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Lucas Shaw.
Lots of good Lucas Shaw articles there.
And some colleagues, but yes.
Yes, yeah.
I've written my fair share about Netflix over the years. I want to start, everyone acts like Netflix has won everything, right? I get a lot of, even people at Netflix don't like it when you say that Netflix has won the streaming wars. They think it's the wrong, but I want to start with something, let's go negative.
All right, I like this. All right, you're speaking to my personality here.
What is something that Netflix needs to do better?
We need to do everything better, and I think the reason I hate when I hear we've won everything or whatever, actually I think the worst position for a company to be in is to feel like they've actually won everything, because I think success has this vulnerability where you start to breed complacency, arrogance, and things like that. And I think in the world that we live in, entertainment, this is the most competitive entertainment environment that's ever existed in the planet, in the history of humankind. It's getting more and more competitive, and if you don't maintain the sense that you are constantly vulnerable, I think you will lose.
So I think the biggest thing that people point to as perhaps a sign of vulnerability, at least that I notice, is that your engagement, the amount of time people spend on the service, has been pretty flat over the last couple of years. And then you look at the regular drops from Nielsen, and you see that streaming share of TV time has gone up quite a bit, and your share that's gone up is a pretty small fraction of that. A lot of the growth has gone to these free services. So how do you address that?
Well, I think you just essentially explained it, right? Which is that we moved to on-demand very early on in the process, so we sort of got the benefit, or basically built our business around that benefit. And then, everyone over a period of time caught up, and essentially from our perspective, they're all now moving to that model and moving to that benefit for consumers. So, frankly, the fact that we were actually keeping pace in that sort of shifting tide, if you will, I think is a reasonably good thing. It's not great,
I mean, good thing, but from everything I've heard inside the company, like the goal was basically to replace television, right? Like have Netflix be the one, if you can watch basically anything on television on Netflix except for news and until recently sports.
Well, I think expressing that as an ambition and also that as a way to organize how the company thinks about what we're trying to go do is great. I also think that that's not consistent with saying that we thought it was realistic that we were going to be the only thing that people were going to watch, right? Because I also don't think that that's realistic at the end of the day. So I think there's always going to be like multiple sources of entertainment, even in the categories that we serve. We want to be, we want to win as much of that as we possibly can. So I'm like, back to being complacent. I'm not happy with the fact, that we're not growing engagement. We should grow more engagement. I think we will. I expect that you'll see engagement numbers will go up for us. But also, I don't think there's a world in which we be the only thing that people watch.
A big project I assume to help grow engagement was the new user interface, UI, that you rolled out over the last year plus.
Yep.
Can you point to some key ways in which that has already helped or you think it will help?
Well, I would say a lot of what we've been doing is essentially re-architecting the entire stack. This is from sort of how algorithms get calculated. We used to calculate overnight everyone's recommendations when they show up in the morning. We would have that baked. Now we do it dynamically on the fly. And now we've created a UI where essentially you can, connect those algorithmic pipes in and also launch new modules.
Can you use words that I'm not even going to insult the audience here, that I will understand?
Sure. Yeah. So thank you. Basically, what happens now is that when we think about what titles do you want to watch, right? We used to do that overnight, and you'd show up and we'd give you those titles.
Right.
But now the way that we do it essentially is, as you're navigating the UI, we think about, what are signals that you're giving?
I skipped over this thing really quickly. I'm not interested in that.
That's right. That's right. So I think, and that's something that's going to take us, I think, a while to really build the fullness of how that delivers, benefit for our users. But the thing that I can point to right now that the new UI structure is designed to go do and is doing for us is serving new content needs. As we expand beyond just film and series, we expand to live events, and the UI has to do a different job, which is like, why do you want to show up at Thursday at 7 p.m.? Because, you're going to watch a boxing match that, you wouldn't otherwise get to see. Or why do you want to play a game? Or those kind of things. That's what it's doing for us right now.
Right. When it comes to live, that was something that you sort of famously said you weren't going to do sports for a while, and I know it's not just sports, you also do other live events, but the sports have been the biggest, right? Your NFL game was really big, boxing match was huge, or both boxing matches. The Logan or the Jake Paul one will decide if it's really a boxing match or
you could offer your own opinion. I'll refrain.
But how much more are you going to invest in live events over the next few years? And are there things that you know that you want to add to the service that you don't have right now?
So I would say start with, live we think of as an important additional form of entertainment that we can deliver members. It's sort of a different style of entertainment, where actually it's interesting because in contrast to our on-demand service, which has tremendous benefit because you control the entertainment when you want to watch it, the big benefit of live is that we're all experiencing the same thing at the same time, and that has tremendous sort of social and conversational relevance, right? So we want to do more of it. It represents a very small fraction of our total investment. It represents a small fraction of our total hours, but we think it also does a different job, so it's sort of...
Does it have a different impact on, do you see, because from the third-party data I've seen, you tend to see huge surges in signups around some of those bigger events?
Yeah, I think we expect that it will do the same work ultimately that our other content does, which basically is a reason to sign up and a reason to stay. That's, at the end of the day. Now, I think back to your point about what do we know we want to get and stuff like that, we're still really learning in this space. So we're really trying to figure out, how is this delivering value to members? How is this delivering value to the business? And there's definitely different phenomena, which these are punctuated moments, to your point, right? Which people go like, okay, if I'm maybe on the edge of signing up for Netflix, this might be the thing that pushes me over, to actually do that. So I think we'll see different things for sure, but we really are learning as we go.
I want to throw one poll to the audience before I ask the next question, because they are related. If we get it up there, I will ask. So I promised Greg I would do this. Keep in mind how much these sports cost. Football is the most expensive, tennis is the least expensive, everything else sort of fits in between there. So even though Greg and I both like tennis, it's probably smallest audience, but also least expensive.
Big international audience.
What would you say are the odds that you make a bid for one of the football packages when the NFL opts out of its current deal in 29?
It doesn't really fit with our strategy as we understand it right now. So again, back to your point, we think about what we're doing as an events strategy. And it turns out, as you said, sports are big events, right? And so we can plug those into that strategy. But we also want to make sure that we're being really, really disciplined about, are we investing in ways that are profitable for the business? And some of the big league sports things, we don't actually have a way to figure out that math.
Soccer.
Okay, all right. Well.
Although isn't the sort of the magic of football? I get that the NFL is maybe tricky for you and that it's not global and how expensive it is, but the reason it's so successful, it's the one sport where like every Sunday sort of is an event.
It's amazing in that regard, right? But I think to some degree that lack of substitutability is, of course, what gives the rights holders the leverage, and they've done a pretty good job at getting paid.
I know you have. I can tell that you guys have this vision of where like you have more leverage than the sports leagues in a negotiation, and that has basically never happened in media.
That's right. So until it happens, I would say you should have some skepticism about that.
Okay. One other thing that you guys have basically never done is large-scale M&A. But the bigger you get, the more you tend to get tied to different companies, different deals. There's been some reports around you guys being interested in Warner Brothers Discovery. Is there any truth to that?
I'd say this, we come from a deep heritage of being builders rather than buyers. I also think that it's, one should have a reasonable amount of skepticism around big media mergers. They don't have an amazing track record over, the history of time. So, I would say it's our responsibility to evaluate all our options and try.
So you'll have a conversation, but the odds of an offer are pretty low.
Yeah, our job is to figure out what's the best way to grow our business, right? And we have to think, really carefully, how do we invest, our capital, our time, and our attention? And if that's the best way to do it, great. And if it's not, then we should do something else.
One area you're investing a lot of capital right now, or you might quibble with a lot, but it is gaming.
Small fraction of our total investment, but yes. I appreciate you saying that.
You've been offering video games for 4 years. What grade would?
A little over 3.
Little over 3. Yeah, sorry. What grade would you give your gaming efforts so far?
I'll give us a B-. How's that?
Okay.
I would say, look, you want to maybe just start where we're at, right? It's a big market. $140 billion ex-China, ex-Russia. That's just consumer spend. That doesn't include ads. So we think it's a real opportunity for us to try and earn a percentage of that over a period of time. A lot of what we've been doing is really just building the foundation, right? We've been doing a lot of real hard plumbing work. But now we're getting to a really interesting place where we're going to deliver more of what our vision of what we should be doing in the space is. And we call it games because that's a rubric or, a name that we all can relate to. But really, I would look at this as how do we add more interactive capability? So that means even things like taking our live program, back to the live program, how do we add interactivity with live? So we got voting right now that we're in testing on with David Chang and his live cooking show. You'll see that those interactive features come up with Star Search when we do another live event, a non-sports live event of Star Search. So that's an exciting place to be. And then it gets also...
This is the Dave Chang.
This is the Dave, yeah, so you can see this is sort of how the Dave Chang experience is working. And, again, this is, the tip of the iceberg, and we'll get deeper into this as we go. We're also, I think, more clear around what are the gaming areas, back to the more traditional gaming areas that we are operating in. It's a lot of interactive games around our IP. So you think about what we did with Squid Game. I don't know if you saw Thronglets based on the Black Mirror universe, but
I did not.
It's worth checking out because if you're a Black Mirror fan, it's so in universe. And the fans of Black Mirror just loved it because it was like they were having a meta experience there too. But even like Happy Gilmore, we did a golf game with Happy Gilmore that got a remarkable amount of consumption.
Do most of the people who use Netflix know you offer games?
I would say, I mean, that's part of, frankly, what's been hard about this. And I think it's hard for any brand that has a deep consumer sense of what are you doing for me, right? And then you're like, well, I'm going to do this as well. And it takes a while to really build up that sense of what's happening. But it's not that dissimilar to, let's say when we launched, in a new country, like I went to Japan, right? Yeah. So when we started in Japan, 2% of the Japanese population had ever heard of Netflix. So nobody knew nobody even knew our name, much less be able to tell you what we were doing. And we were doing pay TV service in a country that doesn't really have a great pay TV operation. We're doing over the internet in a way that was totally new. And so you got to every day build a little bit of like, what are we doing, who we are, what do we, how are we here to serve you? So that 10-year journey, let's say, we just did the 10th anniversary in Japan. Tremendous progress over 10 years, but it took us a long time. And I think, the gaming situation is not dissimilar to that.
How much is it an impediment that, for the most part, now you can only play it on your phone?
Well, I would say, the phone is. What's great about it is it's a well-developed gaming ecosystem, right? So, folks know to find games there, but it's also a highly competitive gaming ecosystem. So its developedness gives you both that upside and that downside. But what's exciting is that now we are moving beyond the phone to the TV. So I mentioned like one of the big gaming areas we're going after. One of the big gaming areas we're going after now is, social gaming experiences that will show up on your TV. So we are now announcing, we're going to announce here actually, that we're going to have these social party games, a pack of social party games that you can play on your TV with your phone as the controller. And it's things like, recognizable games like Boggle, you got Pictionary, we've got a Lego party game, we've got Tetris, we've got like a Mafia style whodunit. This is me and our CTO Elizabeth playing Boggle here, which is, we're two very competitive people, so it got pretty ugly.
Who won?
I'm not gonna say.
That means you lost.
Oh, does it? Why don't you watch the video, my friend? you triggered my competitive spirit. But this is, so it's your phone, which is an incredible device, and there's all sorts of things that you're going to be able to do on your phone that you can't do on a normal controller, like touch screen, and this is us basically picking our words on that. And it's dead simple to use. It's intuitive. And then this is, us on the earliest days of how we actually can use that. And if we basically are going to like unleash this with a bunch of creators, and they're going to go figure out stuff that we didn't even imagine that they can do with that interactivity.
Got it. So you made a comment earlier about how it's never been more competitive in media. How worried are you about competition from the second richest person in the world?
Well, I guess I'm not sure that that's exactly who's competing with us. That's maybe a good question. Well, look, start with, it's fun to have some new vigor in the competitive ecosystem and the dynamic there. I think it's exciting. It sort of, keeps everybody on their toes, and we're trying to figure out, everyone's trying to figure out, okay, what does that mean and what does it do? I also think you have to go back to, it doesn't change the business fundamentals, right? You still have a bunch of problems to go solve and a business to grow, and so we'll see what happens.
So you bid against them for UFC, they come way over the top, that doesn't worry you, that doesn't send a signal that maybe they'll be able to spend somewhat irrationally for...
Lucas, we are constantly dealing with a situation where our competitors outbid us, and what I try to remember with our team is we should bid up to the point where we think it's going to deliver value back to the business, and if somebody outbids us, I say you should applaud and say, go with God and try and monetize the heck out of that.
Is it fair to say that YouTube is the stiffest competition, or at least for attention?
Sorry, say that again?
YouTube.
Oh, YouTube, yeah, for sure they're a competitor, of course, yeah.
Would you say they're the toughest for you?
They're a formidable competitor for sure. And I think because to some degree they compete in a different axis. I think it's orthogonal competition is always the hardest competition to deal with because it's hard to measure how you're doing things. They have angles against you that you might not be familiar with, and so I think we're developing an understanding of what's our place in the ecosystem relative to them. Yeah. How do we basically shore that up? We want to be the place where we invest ahead with.
So what is that? Do you look at that and say, we need to do UGC? Do you look at that and say we should skim off their biggest talent?
I think the dumbest move would be to try and match them, in every way, because I think you have to really know what lane you're operating in, and then try and be excellent at that, and then defend that lane. And so, what do? We invest ahead with creators so that they can tell their stories in really, really compelling ways in a way that the YouTube model doesn't really allow them to go do. So we want to work with the best creators on the planet. Some of those folks are going to come from YouTube. They're going to come from TikTok. They're going to come from traditional places all over the place. We want to be the place that they want to go when they're ready to tell that story at that level. And then our job is to find the biggest global audience for them and make that really, a strong, reinforced loop.
Yeah. I was talking with your old friend Robert earlier, and he made a parallel of sorts that I think other people have done between sort of the dawn of UGC and where we're at with AI entertainment right now. A lot of people over the last week in Hollywood very alarmed about Sora, new product from OpenAI. Netflix, it seems like, has been slightly less reactionary than some of its peers, if I'm being fair. You guys have talked openly about using AI on at least one project. So why disclose that, and how are you using AI in terms of the creative process, not tech, product, any of that?
So I think a better parallel in my mind is actually the internet rather than UGC.
Sure.
So that's how I think about it generally. Maybe just to start with, we've been in the AI business for people that haven't tracked for 2 decades.
Yeah.
And so we think of that heritage, our tech DNA, large sets of data, scaled consumer products, scaled business processes, including on the content production side, as being the reason that we actually have an advantage to lean into how we use these technologies. We want to do so in a disciplined way, though, because I think you can throw a lot of stuff around that's not really going to matter, and we want to figure out where are the places that deliver value to the business. Consumer experience is one. Advertising is another big one. You mentioned content production. We feel like our job is to give our creators a suite of tools that we've vetted and that are work together, orchestrate together well. They can use other tools too. That's up to them to figure out what they want to go do. But we see a lot happening in previs and shot planning, and scheduling and pro forma budgeting and all that stuff. We see a lot happen in the sort of post side of things, VFX, and you mentioned examples that we've used before. That's a pretty good example where we've been able to do shots that we wouldn't able to do in other ways. And so we see that continue to proliferate, and we'll let the creators lead the way in that process. But I think our job is to assist them in that rather than hold back.
So I'm curious, because some of your peers in Hollywood have sued some of the AI companies. Do you feel confident that an OpenAI, a Google, a Meta, or some of the smaller ones like Midjourney have violated copyrights that you guys own?
Well, I think we're in this process where you're going to see a lot of people trying stuff, but I would say we have a very strong position that IP should be protected. We believe in supporting creators; they should tell amazing stories with us, with other people, and that output should be protected. And so we believe strongly that tool creators, some of the folks that you mentioned, and also consumers, we have sort of a legal standard around this, whether it's coming from an AI model or from another human creator. Like if you copy, without AI, we've got a legal standard around that, and we should enforce those standards and be strong about that.
Another area where some of your peers have gotten into conflict that you have thus far avoided, although it flared up a bit recently, is in politics. At a moment where you have a president who kind of has gone after a lot of elite institutions, probably has tweeted nasty things about your company at one point or another, how do you think about, do you have to do anything to proactively defend yourself?
I think we've tried to stay focused on serving members and serving the business as being our overarching organizing principle. And when it comes to some of the things that trip, we've been pretty clear about our position that we are in the business of entertaining the world. That is our mission.
But in entertaining the world, you are invariably going to program certain things that a lot of people don't like, right? That's the danger of art.
If we are doing our job well, so just to be clear, we're trying to now program for a number of human beings on the planet that's approaching 1 billion people. Those people all do not think the same. They have different views of what their entertainment should be delivering to them. So if we are doing our job right, we're working with a wide diversity of creators, and we're supporting their ability to tell their story in their own way. And if we're doing it right, there's something on the service where every one of us as employees or every one of our members probably thinks is not great, or they don't like, or maybe they think is harmful. And frankly, if we don't have that, we're actually not doing our job correctly, right? And so we've been pretty clear that that's the business we're in, and we're going to keep doing that.
But you do every so often take stuff down when governments don't like it. We just haven't had it happen here.
Well, to be very clear, we do not respond to government pressure when the government has a legal claim that we're legally obliged to respond to. Then we react to that, but we then actually post that so that there's transparency around that. And again, that's happened 5 times in the last year, right? So it's not, if you think about the kind of content that we carry and the number of places that we carry, we've generally been successful at having a wide range of content up in every place that we operate.
Okay, we're going to run through a few things quickly because I think we only have a minute plus left. Would you have made more money from K-pop Demon Hunters if you'd released it in theaters?
I don't think so. At the end of the day, it's worked incredibly well for us. If you cherry pick it, and I don't know, maybe doesn't really matter. But that would not be a reason to go change the strategy. So that's probably the more fundamental question.
You've got a bunch of merch and Halloween costumes and stuff. One more K-pop question: has anyone approached you about a theme park attraction tied to?
Not that I'm aware of. I bet you it's happened though. We're doing these. Is
that a very delicate way of saying it's happened? But because I'm far enough removed from it, I'm not going to touch that.
I don't actually know. So I'm legitimately telling you I don't actually know. But I wouldn't be surprised if it hasn't happened. But we've got these Netflix houses that we're building now, which would be the kind of places where we want to put those kind of experiences in.
Will Netflix syndicate its programming to third parties within the next 3 to 5 years?
I doubt it. I don't think there's a lot of value in it, and I'm not sure why we would do it.
Okay, last one. Who's a better tennis player, you or Bill Gates?
You're really putting me on the spot. I think I'm a pretty good tennis player.
That is not an answer to the question. Greg, thank you very much.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you very much, Greg. We have one final guest. It was billed as a surprise for the first 2 weeks. You can understand why, given the news of the last little bit. Please, everyone, welcome Jimmy Kimmel.
How are you?
I'm all right. How about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm really psyched about Boggle.
Yeah?
I am.
Are you a word game guy?
I love Boggle. I play it on, I play it on the toilet on my phone, but now I'll play it on Netflix, I guess.
We'll stick with TMI. I played Quirtle on the toilet this afternoon, so there we go.
See, we're already learning things about each other.
Thanks for being here. I know it's been a weird few weeks.
Has it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I want to start at the beginning, if we can.
When I was born?
Yes.
It was in a manger.
Well, so since you brought it up, we're going to talk about everything that happened. Have you listened to this AI podcast about your life?
No.
I found it doing some research. They have an AI voice that just narrates. The first episode is your life until you get hired on ABC. The second episode is your career at ABC until recently, and the third episode is very recent. We can fact check it.
Does it have the details of my divorce?
No. But it does have a line: the Kimmels weren't wealthy, but they weren't struggling either. They were in that sweet spot of American middle-class life where dreams seemed achievable and laughter came easily around the dinner table.
That's pretty spot on. This AI is terrifying.
How long after the initial episode where you made the comments about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the Monday episode, did you realize there was a problem?
I didn't think there was a big problem. I just saw it as distortion on the part of some of the right-wing media networks, and I aimed to correct it. I have problems all the time, and it's kind of funny because sometimes you think, oh, this is not a problem, and then it turns into a big problem. And then sometimes it goes the other way where you think oh, this is going to be a problem, and nobody really notices.
And so at what point did you realize this was a problem?
I think when they pulled the show off the air. I was like, well, that's unusual.
Yeah. And what were the conversations with Dana and Bob that led to that?
I hate to disappoint you, but they were really good conversations.
Yeah, I'm not asking for you to blame anyone.
I mean, really good conversations. They are. These are people that I've known for a long time and who I like very much, and who were, who wanted. We all wanted this to work out best. And I will tell you, first of all, I ruined Dana's weekend. It was just nonstop phone calls all weekend, but. I don't think the result, which I think turned out to be very positive, would have been as positive if I hadn't talked to Dana as much as I did, because it helped me think everything through, and it helped me just kind of understand where everyone was coming from. I can sometimes be reactionary, I can sometimes be aggressive, and I can sometimes be unpleasant, and I think that it helped me, really having those days to think about it was helpful.
Okay, I have a dumb question about this. As someone who was kind of reporting on it in real time, trying to figure out what's happening, so the show goes off the air, you have all these conversations, and when you all made a decision to put the show back on the air, as my understanding at the time was, it still wasn't exactly clear what you were going to say. They still hadn't resolved the issues with the affiliates. So what do you resolve in those conversations to know you're going back if you haven't figured out a lot of the things that come out of it?
I think just the spirit of what I'm going to say, rather than specifically what I was going to say. And I think that's something that we all agreed on. And I think that ultimately I wanted to kind of cover every base if I could. And sometimes you can do that, and sometimes you can't do that. And it was something really that had to come from inside me. It had to be truthful, and I had to lay it all out there and just be honest about what I was feeling and what I'd experienced. And I think I did, and I think that it probably went about as well as it could go. I knew that it wasn't going to be perfect, and there were always going to be people that didn't like it and didn't accept it, but the important thing to me was that I was able to explain what I was saying, what I was trying to say.
Because you felt like your initial comments had been mischaracterized.
I didn't feel like it was.
They were.
It was intentionally and I think maliciously mischaracterized, yes.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have become more political in your commentary on the show over the course of hosting it?
What do you think?
I think yes. I think if you talk to me when my first interaction with Jimmy Kimmel was the Man Show.
Yeah.
Which is you and Carolla, who at this point, as best I can tell, are on complete opposite ends of the political spectrum, but still friends.
Yeah, very good friends, yeah.
And it feels like you became far more comfortable and insistent on talking, not just about politics, but about personal things. Mm-hmm. Maybe because you got older, maybe because you got more comfortable in the role, maybe because the world around us changed, all of those things. But
yeah, all of those things for sure. I think maturity is part of it. I think you figure out who you are. I think that when I started the show, I was mostly, my homepage was ESPN.com. It's kind of all I really cared about was sports.
Because you've been a radio sports guy.
I've been a sports guy. I did football picks on Fox NFL Sunday for years. In radio, I was on K-Rock with Kevin and Bean. I was mostly interested in sports, and I was interested in politics. I've always been even as a kid, my parents are very liberal. I've been a Democrat since I was a little boy. I think the first political cartoon I ever drew was of Jimmy Carter and John Anderson. It was I was 12 or something, and I've always been interested in politics, but I was never a particularly political person. I also think maybe you did, but maybe you didn't have to be back then. I think this is a very different situation that we're in now. And also my job, as I see it, is to talk about the news of the day, and these are the big stories of the day pretty much every day.
And how much of that, can you see a difference, because we're in Trump 2, do you feel like it was the need to talk about politics is greater when he has been president as opposed to when other people, because you started when Bush was president, then you had Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump. it does feel like things have gotten more political over time, but do you think it is also sort of I don't want to use the word quirk, but a facet of Trump and his relationship with the media?
Yeah, I mean, he's on TV all day, every day, so he gives us a lot to use, to deal with. You know, that's unusual. That's not how it used to be. You'd occasionally get a video of George Bush, like, walking the wrong way on stage, and then you'd make a week out of it, you know, or somebody trips or something like that. But now it's just, you hear him, you see him, he's just presented himself so frequently at it makes it's just more digestible, and
right.
it's more digestible and less digestible at the same time.
Right. Do you feel like you interact with a lot of comedians? Do you think there's some writers and comedians I've spoken with who feel like comedy's actually been harder with him as president? Mm-hmm. What you just said is, in a way, there's more material to work with. What would you say his impact on comedy has been?
Well, is there more? I don't know if there's more material. It's just more focused in one area. I'm not a stand-up comic. I know for stand-up comics, you know, they work out their material and they do mostly that material every night. So politics change so quickly, it doesn't necessarily lend itself to that job. For me, I've always been more interested in doing new jokes when I started on the radio every day and doing new jokes every night. I don't love the idea of repeating myself. It feels more like acting to me than broadcasting. And I think essentially I'm a broadcaster and I'm more interested in that. So I can't speak to whether it's made their job more difficult. I know a lot of them just try to stay away from it, and I get it. You know, I get it. You're walking into a town and you don't know who's in the room, and you just want to make people laugh, and you're not necessarily on a crusade. And I get it, and I don't think any of those guys should be required to speak the way I do, or the way Stephen Colbert does, or Jon Stewart does, and I think that applies to people on television too. You don't have to do this. It's just I choose to do it.
Since you came back, have you asked Trump or Carr to come on?
No, I haven't. I wouldn't necessarily be interested in Brendan Carr on the show, but yeah, I'd love to have Trump on the show for sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like he knows that he wants. I don't know. All right, I'll ask him.
I'm curious about you had Aziz Ansari on this week, and you pressed him a lot on this Riyadh Comedy Festival that a bunch of comedians went and did. Do you, as someone who interviews for a living, did you give him a heads up you were going to ask him about that?
Yes. I mean, you know how talk shows are. We basically there's an understanding of what you're going to talk about. Sometimes it veers off into various directions, but they always know basically what the topics are going to be. Yeah.
And why? I guess, did you feel it was important to ask him about that because you had a point of view on comedians going to that festival? It seemed like you were against it.
I wouldn't have gone, but I wanted to hear his reasons. And I thought he had some compelling reasons, and nothing's black and white. It's not something I would do, but I do understand the idea that if we close ourselves off to the world, or we isolate somebody, that maybe it's not good. I don't know that my reasoning is the correct reasoning. I also, you know, we see it happening in this country too. I mean, we travel abroad. Many of us don't want to be held accountable for what our president does and says. As an American, you know, going someplace, I'm fortunate enough to be well known and people know where I'm coming from. But I think it would be a different situation if people didn't know who I was. And I think I'd probably be the first thing I'd say as I got into every cab is, I didn't vote for him, just FYI, you know. So I do think that there's, you know, it makes me understand that position better.
Have you done a paid gig for a despot? Is that?
Let me think. Bill Gates once, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's 2 Bill Gates references in one day. Okay.
And I would kill him in tennis. No. No, I would not kill him in tennis. He would kill me in tennis. But
do you have, because you've interviewed so many people, is there like a dream guest you've never had that you still really want to have?
Yes, I would love to have Banksy on the show. Yeah, okay. That's my dream guest.
Okay, some people have Daft Punk, you have Banksy.
Yeah.
You brought up Colbert earlier. You've spoken out a little bit, I think largely about the coverage. You feel like CBS or someone is putting numbers out there about how much money he's losing, and you think that can't be possible. Why is that?
Because it just doesn't make any. I know what the budgets for these shows are. I know what I make. I know what Steven makes. I know what the ad sales people make. I know that there are values that nobody bothers to consider, like the affiliate fees that have to account for a portion of that when you talk about an hour of television every night, 5 nights a week. So I know that it's not $40 million. Is the show losing money? That I don't know. I can't imagine that it's losing a lot of money if it is.
So what is the ballpark, the budget for these shows these days?
$120 million.
And they make about that much, a little more, a little less?
Yeah, I mean, you never really know,
Because how much do you attribute the affiliate fee to your show versus every other?
Well, I don't know what the specific affiliate fees. Each market has a different, amount that they pay. But I also know this. I know that if we're losing so much money, none of us would be on. That's kind of all you need to know. I mean,
he's not on.
This is not PBS, he is not on. But if they lost $40 million last year,
they would have canceled it already.
Yeah, they would have sent everyone home.
Okay, so you set me up for that one. Your contract is up next May, I believe.
Yeah.
You going to stick around past that?
Well, it's funny. I often answer that question, and then I do the opposite of what I said.
You previously said this is going to be like my last one.
The last 3 contracts, I said this is the last one. So I've learned not to say anything anymore because it upsets my staff, and it's best that I just, when I make a decision, I will make that decision.
Okay, since we're not going to get into the decision, have you made a decision and you're just not ready to talk about it, or you haven't made a decision?
Well, that would kind of say that I'd made a decision, right? So I think I'd just rather not talk about it.
Let's imagine a world.
I'll tell you when I decide, okay? All right.
I appreciate it. Let's imagine a world after the show, because there will be a moment after the show. We're not talking about when. You don't think.
I can't imagine that the world is going to go on without me, but go ahead.
Have you given any thought to what you'd want to do after it? You're friends with Ted Sarandos, you could go on Netflix. You're friends with Bill Simmons, you could do a podcast. Not sure you'd want to.
You mean besides playing Boggle on Netflix?
Besides playing Boggle on Netflix.
Yeah, I've given it thought. Because I thought I really was going to leave like 9 years ago or whenever I said I was going to leave, I started a production company, and I'm interested in a lot of things. I have a lot of ideas. Most of them are not good ideas, but some of them I think are really good ideas, and they're not just television related. I have a lot of different projects that I'm interested in. I'm just like,
what's one you're really into right now?
Well, I'm working on a show with Mark Rober on Netflix, and I'm working.
Big YouTuber for those who don't.
Yeah, Mark Rober's a YouTuber. Your kids know who he is if you don't know who he is. I've got a sitcom with a guy named Chris DiStefano, who's a very funny comic. I've got some other projects that are not television related that I can't necessarily talk about yet, but I think are going to be really a lot of fun and hopefully successful.
You mentioned talking about it being the end. I was curious, I didn't ask you earlier, was there ever a moment in that kind of the week or two of chaos where you thought your show was never going to go back on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right, I did, and I'll tell you why. Because, I'm a troublemaker just by nature, and my first year, the Lakers beat the Pistons in the NBA playoffs. And I said something to the effect of, well, I hope they don't burn Detroit down. And everyone in Detroit was very unhappy.
This was the 2004 finals that the Lakers ended up losing, but they won a game maybe in Detroit?
Yeah, it was a game.
All right.
You're right. No, you're right. I know. I said that, and people were mad, and they pulled me off the air in Detroit. And a guy who's really been like my mentor at ABC, Alex Wallow, said to me, he said, you know, if we don't have Detroit, you're done. The show's over. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, you can't go forward without a major market like that, which was news to me. So I went to Detroit and did the show for a week there and kissed as much ass as I possibly could. But the idea that I would not have whatever it was, 40 affiliates, I mean, knowing that Detroit was a deal breaker, I was like, well, that's it, because there seemed to be a list of demands presented to me, and I was not going to go along with any of them. And I was like, well, I guess we're done. I said to my wife, that's it, it's over.
Did you see that thing about the number of people who canceled Disney Plus? Because
I did, yeah.
Do you think that's real?
I hope so. I don't know. I mean, it gave me a feeling of power that I've never had before.
You brought up YouTube, which I think a lot of people would say has been sort of one of the primary sources of the downfall of late night over the last little bit. Mm-hmm. How have you changed your show to kind of appeal to people on YouTube, and why do you think you can't make more money there?
I never have changed my show to make it for YouTube. I'm very conscious of the fact that ABC pays for the show and YouTube pays nothing, and YouTube gets to sell it and keep half the money, and that's quite a deal for them. It really is. But I've never made the show for YouTube. With that said, I love YouTube and I love being on YouTube, because all you really want deep down is for as many people to see your stuff as you can. And I know that it has hurt, because it is so easy to watch the monologue on YouTube now. I know that it has hurt the ratings, not just for our show, but all of the shows. And maybe that's kind of what has killed late night TV. More likely, the fact that we have our lead-ins are a tenth of what they were when I started. That's probably more likely the reason. But I love the idea that people in other countries are watching YouTube. I love the idea that
do you look at the views for your?
I do. Yeah.
I looked recently, and I was alarmed to see that the most watched video from your show had fewer views than the average Mr. Beast video. And I don't know what that says about the state of the world, but
I think it says Mr. Beast is kicking ass, is what it says, yeah. Well, you know what? There is a big difference. When you do the show every night, you're not going to get as many views. But we still, I mean, I woke up this morning, there were 2.2 million views of my monologue the night before. So for everyone who says late night is dying, it's just not true. We still have, probably at 3.5 million right now. We'll still have 5-6 million people watching the show every night. That's a lot of people. I mean, that's more than most of the primetime shows.
Right.
And you don't hear that about primetime.
Ratings get kind of covered in a weird way. Like you talked about 2.2 million views on YouTube, right? And the metric for a view on YouTube is totally different from the metric for a view on TV, right? You watch it for 30 seconds a minute.
TikTok is 3 seconds, I think. YouTube is 30. You have to watch it for at least 30 seconds.
Yeah, we have YouTube comms right here if you want to.
And TV, I think, is like a 5-minute chunk that you have to.
It's usually
in a quarter hour.
The average number of people watching it over the full course is what the rating that gets reported.
Right.
We had Greg up here. Why do you think the topical comedy thing has never really worked on Netflix?
I don't know. I think maybe people are expecting something different. People are very regimented.
Yeah.
You know, when we started our show, we wanted to do everything different. It was like, oh, we're going to do this, and this is going to be different. That's going to be different. And then over the years, we realized, oh, they just want to see a desk and the guests and a band, and don't fuck around with it. It's a great format. It's Steve Allen invented it 50-something years ago, and it's exactly as it was then for a reason.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I know you're not part of the decision-making process on this at all, but do you feel like there will be, like The Tonight Show would be the last show to get canceled, I would assume?
Yes, I think so.
Do you think that show will last a really long time, or do you feel like eventually all these shows go away and have to get reinvented and whatever?
I don't think there's a reason for these shows to go away. I think there are ways, these shows started out because they were a way to get high-priced talent for almost free. That was the whole trick. That was the whole reason they started these shows. It was deemed to be promotional. Sure. So the idea that these shows need to cost $120 million, it's
crazy.
They don't need to cost $120 million. And somebody will figure it out and just...
It's like what a Hot Ones is, makes the similar concept for considerably less money.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think you could still have the same format. You could still have a band. You could have all of those things and still do the show for a lot less money. It's just the people aren't going to make it. The host is not going to make as much money. And the audience isn't going to be as big. But that's okay because, I mean, I love seeing these. I love the idea that people can make a living with 200,000 viewers every day or every night, and they can talk about weirdly specific things, and those people who are really interested in those weirdly specific things have a place to take those, to absorb that stuff. I think that's great. I love the idea that a 16-year-old can have their own TV show.
What is the weirdest channel you follow on YouTube or TikTok?
I'm not on TikTok. I do not put that on my phone. I follow, let's see, on YouTube. Well, weirdly, my 8-year-old son, he adds subscriptions to our list, and there suddenly were like 11 Jesus channels on my thing. I was like, is this kid a priest or maybe the Messiah? I don't know what it is. But yeah, that's the weirdest one on our list.
Okay. I have one last question for you. Who's going to be the next CEO of Disney?
Oh. I'm never mentioned in this, right? And nobody ever, I mean, like there never is any serious discussion.
No.
Well, I will just say,
I wasn't actually going to.
It would be very foolish for me to answer that question. But I happen to love Dana Walden very much, and I think she's done a great job. And I think what has happened over the last 3 weeks, I think was very unfair to my bosses at Disney. I don't think anyone should ever be put in a position like this. It is insane. And I hope that we drew a really, really bold red line as Americans about what we will and will not accept. I mean, I really hope that that's what comes out of all of this.
That was not actually my last question because I did not think you were going to answer it, but I appreciate it. I guess related to that, if you could give... You talk about how comedy's changed. If you could give one piece of advice to an up-and-coming comedian or an up-and-coming broadcaster, when you see those people and you see the changes in media around you, what do you, other than follow your passion, what do you tell them to do?
I would tell them what I didn't get to do when I was a kid. And sometimes I fantasize about just starting all over again, because what I had to do when I started in radio was hang around the radio station for 3 years. And then they let me on a little bit. And then they let me on a little more. And then when they thought I was funny, they let me on more. But it took so long for me to get on the air and to learn to do the job that now I would say, start doing a podcast or start a YouTube channel. Do it every single day. It doesn't matter if anybody's watching it. Just keep doing it over and over and over and over again, and you're going to get, if you have any talent, you're going to get good at it. And if you're good, I mean, really, YouTube is very, if something is good, it will catch on. If something is interesting, people will take note of it, and it may take 5 years, but you'll have something at the end of it.
This was great. Thanks for doing it.
That was advice for you.
I appreciate it. I'm going to stick around.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Should I leave now?
You leave.
Okay. All right.
But
I can just hang out.
You can do the closing remarks. You'd be better at it than I would be.
Close it up. Thank you, everybody.
Don't leave just yet. A few announcements. Great start this year. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for being a good audience. Got to start with the sponsors. Presenting sponsors, Amazon Web Services and Corient. Supporting sponsors, Nielsen, Turkish Airlines, and Weil, Gottschall, and Manges. Couple of other announcements, one for tomorrow, another for later tonight. Loaded day tomorrow. Doors open at 8:30. We have great food from one of my favorite chefs, Vivian Koo, Pine and Crane and Joy. If you know those restaurants, they'll be doing breakfast. We'll have coffee. That's at 8:30. At 8:45, community curator sessions start out there. We have the CEO of NPR, Catherine Marr. She probably has some thoughts on what Jimmy said tonight. Some of my colleagues will be hosting networking out in that area, I believe in the courtyard at 8:45, and you will catch me back here at 9:45 with David Ellison, who has nothing to say. And then don't go anywhere, don't leave the venue, but go out there in a second. We have some great food, great drinks, best barbecue in California from Heritage, Chef Daniel Castillo. We have great Thai food from Anajak. Chef Justin is on our ones to watch list, which you'll hear more about tomorrow. We have tacos from Tacos Leo, ice cream from Wanderlust, and music from Sammy Joe. I think DJ Sammy Joe. Anyways, I'm done for the night. Thank you so much, and I'll see you out there.